I bear the marks of Jesus on my body. This is what Paul tells us today in the letter to the Galatians. I bear the marks of Jesus on my body. So what were those marks? It's a good question, and theologians have actually wrestled with this. Some say that those marks of Jesus on Paul's body may have been the actual stigmata. Maybe he had holes in his wrists and his hands, his head and his back or feet. We don't know. It could have been the stigmata. Or it could have been just the scars of his journeys. He tells us that there are many times in his journeys where he was flogged and stoned and almost drowned. Those kind of marks stay with you, and he may be showing them, hey, this is what preaching the gospel in the harvest will sometimes happen to you. But also many will say that there's a deeper meaning here, that in those times, slaves always, usually, many of them would have marks on their bodies of who they belonged to. Whether it was a brand or a mark, and even on their animals, their cattle, and their furniture. Oftentimes the slave owner, the master of the manor, there would brand his mark to show that this belongs to me. And that would show that who they belong to. I know this sounds kind of strange, but this plays itself out even today. When I was in college, there was many fraternities on campus, but there was one notorious fraternity, the Omegas. And it looks like an upside down horseshoe. The Omegas, when they would be initiated into their fraternity, they went through this seance-looking thing where the brothers in the fraternity would punch the candidates in the arm until it become numb, and they would take a brand and brand their shoulder, the big old scar on their shoulder, and they would show everybody, this is the group I belong to. This is who I belong to. And it was meant to tell the truth. What tribes they belong to and who they are rooting for. They mark their bodies to tell the world, this is who I am, this is who I'm fighting for, this is the tribe I belong to. And we know that is true in almost all cases. I used this Friday, as an image. It's a very powerful one for me. So tonight, either at 5 or 6, I think it's at 5, tonight in NRG Stadium in Houston, the United States men's soccer team will go against the Mexican men's soccer team in the Gold Cup final. And I know many of you are not soccer fans. That's fine. It's fine. But even if you turn to that station when it happens, I would invite you to look at the crowd. And when you look at the crowd, for most of the crowd, it will not be a mystery who's rooting for who. There will be flags all over the place. There'll be people with their flag painted on their face. They'll be wearing the uniforms of their team. And even though it is in the United States, it might be directly down the middle. Half United States, half rooting for Mexico. Now, this was always a funny and strange dynamic when I was in a seminary in Houston. Mexico used to come play our team at Reliance Stadium then. And but we had guys in our seminary who were from Mexico. And many of them were trying to become Americans for our diocese. And they would watch the game. And we would always ask them, who are you rooting for? And there would be this cognitive dissonance there. Their struggle, their loyalties were sometimes stretched because they appreciated this country. They enjoyed the blessings here. But their heart was still oftentimes in Mexico rooting for their team. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But if there was ever a doubt, we would just wait to see if Mexico scored. And immediately you would know, by watching their bodies. We would watch their bodies. Because bodies tell the truth about who we are, who we're rooting for, and what tribe we belong to. And if I can continue this image, because it's a powerful one for me, even though it is a sports image. Because Jesus sends out his disciples, his 72, not his apostles. His apostles were supposed to go to the tribes of Israel. But then he sends this 70 farther out. I want you to go into Gentile lands. And he even tells them what to wear, what to carry, what to wear on their feet, how to talk. He challenges them to let the people know who they trust in. Take no bag or food, or just take a staff or a second tunic. Don't take any of that. He gives them instructions, and he's rooting for them. He's rooting for them. But also, in what they wear, what they say, lets the people know who they're rooting for, what tribe they belong to. They're coming to them with a new way of life. It'll soon after be called Christianity, but a new tribe has emerged. And he asked them, and they will be asked to celebrate, to be part of this tribe, even with their bodies. To express it with their bodies. So if I can go back to my little sports image. Growing up, I always loved to watch the NFL. I watched pro football. I really enjoyed that. On Sundays, we look forward to that. But then after a while, I became a fan of college football. We had a team in the town in San Marcos at Texas State, and I used to go to the games. I really enjoyed it. Then I enjoyed college football kind of in general. And whatever town I lived in, I would try to go to the game. So there was a time when I lived in Austin, and there's a college team there. I lived in College Station, and there's a college team there. I lived in Dallas, and I actually went to a TCU game, even though that's in Fort Worth. I lived in Waco, and there's a college team there. And even in Houston, I went to see both TCU and Rice play. Now, I don't know if there's any graduates here from Rice. If you've ever been to a Rice football game, it's a whole stadium full of nerds. But that in itself is an experience. But you would find out real quick who is rooting for who, especially when they had the little dances, their little chants, what they were wearing, and especially when their team scored or got scored against. You'd find out who were they rooting for, what tribe do they belong to. You just watch their bodies. Because I would say, and John Paul II says this in his Theology of the Body, that bodies tell the truth. It's not only about what tribe we're in or who we're rooting for, it tells the truth about relationships. Our bodies tell the truth about our relationships. Who we hug, who we shake hands with, who we kiss. They tell the truth. I remember telling my junior high, I was teaching junior high theology of the body, and I remember telling, there were girls in this class, and I said, well, I have nieces, and they kiss me when they come up, they hug and they kiss me. And I asked them, do you kiss your uncles? And they said, it depends. It depends on which uncle and what kind of relationship. There'll be some they hug and kiss. There'll be some they walk to and give like a side hug with the head. You ever seen that? What is that saying? Well, that expresses their relationship. That's why I say to all of you parents, when parents tell their 8-year-old son, now kiss Aunt Bertha, and they freak out. Well, don't make them do that, because little Johnny and Aunt Bertha don't have that relationship yet. And his body is expressing it. His body is telling the truth about it. And as Catholics, as Christians today, we see Jesus sending people out, not just staying home and believing, but with their bodies. They're asked to testify to their faith. With their mouths, with their bodies, how they eat, what they wear, how they dress, and how they pray. And not to be ashamed of that. To never back down from it. I think we have Billy, if you can put up that slide. This is straight out of the Catechism. This is paragraph 2471. Before Pilate, Christ proclaimed that he has come into the world to bear witness to the truth. And how does he do that? He does that with his body. The Christian is not to be ashamed, then, of testifying to our Lord. In situations that requires witness to the faith, the Christian must profess it without equivocation. After the example of St. Paul before his judges, we must keep a clear conscience toward God and toward men. And what does it mean to be not ashamed and having a clear conscience toward God and toward men? That we have some kind of truth in advertising. That we let people know with our bodies, who we belong to, and not to lie with our bodies. Because there's all kinds of ways to lie. And we know that as Christians, we're told why is fornication a lie? Why is it a sin? Because two people are telling a lie with their bodies. When a man and woman come together in an intimate way, we call that the marital act. But what if they're not married? What do we call that? We have all kinds of words now. But it's a lie. That's why adultery is a sin. That's why contraception is a sin. Because even if it's in a married couple, they're telling each other with their bodies, I love you, but not this much. I'm going to keep this part back. And what has happened then? Because then when lying with our bodies becomes normal, people start to celebrate it. They start to affirm it. They start to encourage it. And next thing you know, especially our young people start to believe and get confused about their own bodies. And they wear the scars when they go to some gender-affirming care doctor and he slices her up or him up and then carries those scars in their bodies of embracing a lie about their own bodies. Even here at the Mass, we're asked to tell the truth with our bodies. We stand, we sit, we kneel, we listen. But especially when we come forward to receive communion. Are you Catholic and well-disposed to receive? You should be receiving communion. If you're not Catholic, nothing against you. If you're not well-disposed to receive, and you are Catholic, get to confession. But to receive communion like that, stick your hand out or your tongue, you're lying with your bodies. You're saying that you're in communion. Now, again, I think this is something in us that we know, especially those of you who are married. When a married couple has had a fight and hasn't been reconciled, somebody is usually sleeping on the couch. And why is that? Because they know if they express communion with their bodies and they're not in communion, something's between them, that has to be rectified first. So then they can tell the truth with their bodies. And in words and songs and gestures, we're asked to do that as Christians. And even in small ways, all of you can pull this off. Even if you go out to lunch today, order an appetizer or something, and then here comes the main meal. Make the sign of the cross as the waiter is approaching and watch him stop. Watch him pause. You are evangelizing him or her. I remember my grandmother, when she was in a nursing home, I would go looking for her, and the orderly and tech goes, oh, your grandma's off there in the corner doing her little beads. Well, she was saying her rosary, moving them on her fingers, and her mouth was moving, and with her body was testifying to everybody around her that she was a woman of faith. And it has impact, even in small ways. But today we hear this huge way when Jesus tells those disciples, go like lambs among wolves. He tells them in advance, it's going to be hard. You're going to be persecuted. It's going to happen. Tough it up, buttercup. It's going to happen. And most of you will not get the stigmata. Most of us won't be scourged with the stigmata. But you have been anointed. All of you have been sealed, especially you've been confirmed. You've been commissioned to spread the faith in word and deed and actions in the truth of your own bodies. Most of the time, we do that with our mouths. Please, use your voice. Use logic. Use reason. There's still this lie out there that St. Francis said, preach the gospel when necessary, use words. Any Franciscan will tell you he never said it. But use your words and your bodies. And you might get some wounds, maybe not on the outside, but when you are mocked or made fun of or whatever, there's some hurt there, especially if it's from families. It's from families that can hurt. saying simple things like, have you made it to Mass? Have you gone to confession? When's the last time you received communion? When's the last time you prayed? Oh, you might be met with some knives for being judgmental. No, you're holding your family accountable because you're a Christian and so are they. It's an act of love. Now, I know it is tough. I know it is not easy. It goes against kind of our inclinations as Americans. I myself, today, I have 3 masses today. We have a healing service after this Mass. Tonight we have Kesis. And then by the time this day is over, I'm usually tired. One of the things I love to do at the end of a long Sunday, if we've had a good Sunday, I like to go to a Mexican restaurant. Sit in the back, order some carne guisada, but I'm tempted not to wear my collar. I'm tempted not to because people walk by and see me, ay, padre, and they want to talk. Usually I enjoy that, but sometimes my collar is a nut magnet. And they'll come and sit down and tell me about all their spiritual thoughts and feelings, and I'm going, oh, that's great. And in my mind and heart, I'm like, leave. Could you please leave me alone? But then I think of today, these readings, and Jesus, which says just that, go like lambs among wolves, healing, driving out demons, praying, spread and defense, and every chance we have a chance to evangelize, use our voices and our bodies to let everybody know, whether it's a simple crucifix, what we eat, where we are. You know, just a few days ago, it can be humbling. I was with my support group, and we were about to have Mass, but we were still meeting and talking, my pre-support group, and I reached over and grabbed the Doritos. And Father Brian, my master, goes, Father John, we're going to go to Mass in a little while. Oh, sorry. It's like my mom yelling at me from a priest who's 10 years younger than me, reminding me, that how we eat and when we eat, even that speaks to our faith and the reverence of what happens up here. When we have a chance to make sure our bodies are telling the truth, make sure everybody knows what team we are on and who we are rooting for. And we look up here at this crucifix to remind ourselves not only what team are we on, what team are we rooting for, but remember who is rooting for us.